Please join us for the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business to approve the minutes as of Monday, December 9th. I think we've all probably had the opportunity to review them.
I'll make a motion.
Tom has moved. Entertain a second.
Second.
Cody is second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
We usually go down and do that and then come back, do the minutes and then go do that, take care of that. And you tell them 9 o'clock down there.
Okay. So we'll go downstairs.
Tell them how to do it.
Anytime you want to make those people. Do we need to turn this off while we're downstairs?
I'd leave it on.
I just on.
Guess we'll get robbed or no. Well, two ways of looking at it. All it takes is some of these things you get it hiding so it shuts off. Yeah, that's what they're going to leave it on and go through it.
Me neither. I was like, darn, the kids are getting a snow day. Can't the county get a snow day? So we could get snow.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I know. Finish up some of my wrapping and all that good stuff. Oh well, it's all good. It'll get there.
He donated back to the circuit and got a $500 gift card to his bike in Victoria. So the third name, he gets to choose whether he wants the bike, gift card, or free entry to all of next year's events. So third.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. Miss PLEA?
Yes.
No, I'll do some checking though, and I'll let you know. I know a lot of people coming after the shoot, it's like, man, I don't know.
Well, the other day, I followed, they've been coming through the land that I quit on, and I followed it over, they've been made cut a wire come up the waterway. And, out there come the game warden, and, it was Brandon Berkwood, and they, ticketed for, trespassing on him, and he ran his land, and he ran it out to, deer hunting. Why, they threw a lie, but they knew where it was coming from, and, I told him, I said, I won't do that, what's his name?
Brad.
Yeah. Anyway, later.
Yep, I'll let you know if I hear something.
What's up, Tom? Yep, any good? Morning, they come back,
For those of you that was unaware of where we were at for about 10 minutes, we were downstairs celebrating a program that the Wellness has for the county. It's a great program, announcing the winners for that. And so right now, we're back up in our chambers. We've already taken care of our minutes from last week. Our consent agenda, move to authorize and direct the chairman to sign 3 tax abatements to the county tax roll in the amount of $436.62. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Tom has moved, entertain a second.
I'll second.
Fred a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried 5-0. Under miscellaneous motions, move to appoint Aaron Copeland, District Number 2, as a member of the Coffee County Housing Authority Board to a 4-year term effective immediately and ending October 26th of 2023, which is not a complete 4-year term, but that is filling out an open position. Aaron Copeland has been a city employee at Leroy for a number of years, and now he is in charge of all the maintenance. Leroy does a great job, so.
And he's replacing Brian, so it is a full term,
Well, Brian's term expired in
but I mean,
October.
well, yeah, but he's still a full term for, basically for him, so.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Tom has moved, entertain a second.
I'll second.
Cody is second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried 5-0. Next on our agenda, Housing Authority Director Rhonda Gilbert. What do you have for us today, Rhonda?
Deb and Hank Bisak from Waverly have purchased a property at 502 South 14th. This is the best one, kind of what it's looking like. It's
Oh, here in town?
Yes.
I've seen it.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Tom has moved to waive the landfill fees for this structure. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion, any questions?
What is the structure? We ought to kind of know what we're doing before we do it.
It is a modular or a mobile home
Mobile
that's
home.
been kind of built onto, and it has a lot of stuff left in it, as you can kind of tell, that's been
Any other?
It's been a nuisance property for many, many years, and
Pretty well tell, this picture pretty well details what it is, so. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Rhonda.
Thank you.
You wanna give Wayne a quick call? To the, what did I say?
Said we're way ahead.
Yeah, way ahead.
We, take Karen for tax sale.
Yeah, I'd have no problem at all moving Karen up. Are you prepared to discuss your tax sale topic, Karen?
Yes.
I received an email from Linda Osterman's firm on Friday, and they said the county needs to advise of which title company they would use, and I assumed that needed to have a motion or something, so I thought I'd just bring it to your attention that they want to know who you plan on using.
How many do we have in the county?
What?
How many do we have in the county? Tax company, just one?
You know, the only one I know is Coffee County Land and Title, but
And they did come in and say they would like to be a part of it if we would.
They made somewhat of a presentation, Paulie did here 2, 3, 4 months ago.
Mhm. With a price, so, which was right in the ballpark of where it needs to be.
I don't know, that was during your meeting, didn't see the document.
Yeah, it was $90, I believe.
I think it was 90. I don't have that document in front of me, but I think it was 90.
Yeah, but she was the only one to make
He's on
that,
his way.
bid, and I think she is the only one in the county, to my knowledge, so.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't know whether that needed to go out for bids or just because she's, like I said, I can't say for sure she's the only one. We get several that come in and do work in our office, but they may not be from in this county.
Cody's looking for that document.
Okay.
I know I have it here for that reason. Let's try it. The document that,
We have a letter from Cobb County Land.
Cobb County Land, doing the title work. I think it was $90.
You know what date she was here?
Been 2 or 3 months ago, and I don't recall the date, and I don't have that document. I don't have it handy.
Was she on the agenda that time?
Mhm.
Let me go back and look and see if I can do a search. I don't have on the agenda, I can find.
We just received a bid from her.
It was a letter stating the value that she would do the work
Right.
for us, and I think it was $90.
Yes.
And, I'm not sure we even need to take, move on that, but that'd be a weights question whether we need to put it in a motion or not.
If we don't do something, Wade's gonna have to do it, so.
Yeah.
Well, if I would have known, I could have maybe found out in advance to help you.
Wade's got it.
Yeah. Karen's brought before us, we need to retain a title company to do the work on our tax sale. And Paulie presented a proposal to us 2, 3, 4 months ago, I'm not sure. So,
There you go.
August 30th, 2019, $90 per tax tract. Is that what you're referencing?
that's what we're
Yes.
searching for.
Yep. So at the time, I believe I made copies and then gave it to everybody, and
Yeah, you did.
then I kept the original in my file. So, does everybody want a new copy?
No.
Or do you want it to review or reference?
Well, our question, I believe, was that, can we just move forward with her, or, well, I guess the main question was, is she only the title company in Cook County? Do we need to,
I can check with Gwen would know.
or can we just make a motion to go?
don't see why you couldn't move forward.
To me, I think we'd just be able to move forward. If,
Well, since Wade's in here, like I said, I was just bringing it forward because they emailed me
Right.
late in the afternoon on Friday, so I just wanted us, so that they can get started with whatever they need, but that'll be up to Wade to let them know, so that was all I needed.
Customers want to move ahead, and they just want to make sure which title company we're using and what it is.
Yeah, that's the way how to do business here, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's other ones, but.
Wade, do we need to move forward with a motion to have her do the work for us?
I just heard Gwen say
Okay, great, thank you.
they are the only title company in the county, so I would not have a problem moving forward.
It is the only one in the county.
Good morning.
My impression was this was a part of the original tax sale, that it might be just to cover the bases, to make a motion, just to have documentation, should there be an issue.
I know that's kind of the way I took it, that we'd probably work with Coffee County Land and Title to move forward on the tax sale, but to be more effective, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Tom has moved that we retain Coffee County Land and Title to do our title work on the tax sale. Entertain a second.
And I'd add at $90 for tax rep, as referenced in the August 30th, 2019 letter.
What he said, yeah.
Okay. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
Cody a second, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried 5-0.
And if you remember that, I don't remember which one was talking about it, but they indicated at the time that up to, I think, $130 or $150.
Yeah.
So $90 is within,
Reason.
yeah.
Okay. Karen, did you have anything else, or did that take care of what you needed for
That
us?
was everything I needed.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that. Wayne, we're ready for your weekly report and whatever else you have for us.
Okay, well, as we have Randall Brown, chief of the, county fire district, okay. And so, I just wanted, yeah, actually, he's in charge of all of the fire departments, right, in Coffee County. So, chief. So what we have is, they have some storage units, that Wolf Creek, they had either purchased or made arrangements for these storage units. And through these storage units, I guess there are also training for, training facility for fire. And, they're wanting to move those to Neustron. And so Wolf Creek has the capability of loading those, through a crane. But they'd have to load them on our lowboy, so the county's lowboy. And then they would also, too, then at that point, once they get to Neustron, then we can unload them using our excavators. And so that's what I'm coming here today, is to have that conversation and approval by the commission to allow Road and Bridge to assist the county fire department for basically hauling and unloading these containers at Neustron. So,
How many containers do we have?
There's 4 containers.
Are they the 20-footers or 40s?
There's 3 40s and 1 20. There'll be some handrails with the 40s, 2 of the 40s. Basically, there's 2 of them that stack on top of each other, and it makes a U. There's a stairwell in between that you can go through and do search and rescue and everything. Go up above. Basically, Wolf Creek donated them to Coffee County, so we can set them up and do training in them.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Got my approval.
Wade, once again, we need to put this in a motion to approve this.
my opinion will always be, the default will be yes, because then you
Yeah.
at least have,
Error to that side. I'd move to allow Road and Bridge to assist the countywide consolidated fire department and
And transport and,
transport and set up
yeah, set up.
of the, shipping containers for fire training.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Cody, second by Bob. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
That's pretty much it. Okay,
Thanks, Wayne.
all right, thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Randall.
Thank you.
You know why I have to do that, right?
You too.
Okay, because that's road and bridge funds. I've gotta make sure you all, okay, okay. All right. Well, good morning.
Was it last year or even the year before that Wolf Creek had said they donated them? Cause I know it'd been 2 years ago. Started talking about it and finally, yeah.
Sounds like a nice, it's gonna be nice for the county to have those training facilities.
Yeah, definitely. Cause they won't just let us burn down houses anymore.
Well, without a little training. Okay, well, I do have the Lakeview Drainage District. This is the agreement between, the consultant engineer and the Lakeview. Gary had came in and visited with me here last week, and so I expect to get back with him on that, so they can start working on that one. So I have that, nothing necessarily here to present, but just to let you know that we're still working to assist them. Do have a special issue check, this will be for fuel. No road permits, 3 zoning permits. Of course, we do have our zoning meeting here this Wednesday. So there's 3 cases that's going before the board, and so it may be a long night. The next one would be the motion for the groundwater service or groundwater monitoring and leachate. These are requirements by KDHE for our landfill, MSW landfill. And this is a 2-year type contract that we actually solicit bids for. In this, you will see, I think you have a bid tabulation document that shows that we had, we had 6 folks that were interested in basically doing the testing for us at the landfill. This is the most that we've had. Generally, it's always been just Blackstone and SCS. So we had more interested.
What's your reasoning for taking the next lowest bid as opposed to the lowest?
Blackstone, as I stated in the motion, is one is they're familiar. Blackstone actually, the principal, the owner of Blackstone, was actually at the very beginning of our landfill, so very familiar with our landfill. Also, too, their staff right now, through recommendations that from KDHE, I had visited with the engineer in charge of receiving these reports. And so he spoke very highly of the engineer that works with us and taking those samples. So what we have is we have somebody that's familiar with our landfill, and for the difference in the low bid of the $400, my recommendation would be to approve Blackstone as the best bid.
It's within 2.5% of the very low bid. Is there a percentage that we need to stay within when you're going with the second
No, we have the option to go low bid or best bid, and best bid is the recommendation I'm going with Blackstone. There's not a significant difference between them. The fact is that we do have these wells that they're familiar with. They do know how to test them, because there are times that the wells are actually dry. There's different things that you need to be able to do to get them to a point where you actually can take the proper samples and have them taken to the lab. And so having that familiarity with our landfill, having that familiarity and having tested our wells, that would be the reasoning behind it, Tom. So hopefully that justifies as best bid.
Yeah, I read the familiarity part, but I thought maybe there's something else.
Hey, Wayne's got before us a motion 2019-43. Angie, because this is a quite lengthy motion, do I need to read this out completely? Or you can just so note it?
I've got it noted, so it's up to you if you want to, since it was presented in written format.
I will move for 2019-46, and I will just kind of say what Wayne says. I think since KGHE had kind of said that they work with Blackstone, that'd be a plus right there.
Well, they work with both of them, but they spoke very
recommended
highly of the engineer that we deal with, that actually she's one of the best in the state as far as chemicals.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Bob is so moved for 2019-46, entertain a second.
Second.
Cody is second, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Okay. Well, construction zone, there's not much changing as you note with the weather. I guess really where we're at with construction zone this week is we're going to be dealing with the weather. We had 2 crews out here Sunday. It's various ranges of snow accumulation that we've had throughout the county. The northern part seemed to have a little bit more initially. Then the southern part, there was comments or basically information coming back that say even 58 Highway didn't have snow onto it when we had about 3 or 4 inches up at Lebo and Waverly area.
58's pretty good shape this morning. I mean, you don't want to drive excessively, but 58's much clearer than what 75 is.
And I think the thing is, when we had started, they noted basically 58 didn't have any snow on it initially, so we're actually doing pretty well down the south part. We did have pre-treatment. We had actually pre-treated here Thursday and Friday here last week, so actually all of the asphalt roads, not just the asphalt roads that are without chip seal, but all the roads, chip seal and hot mix asphalt roads, were pre-treated. So we do have the pre-treatment underneath. It was a fairly dry snow initially, and then after that we had basically the drizzle, the rain, the sleet that came on top of it. We do have the material in there. We have the material in between the layers. I feel that here next or tomorrow, that when we start getting some of that sunshine, that stuff will start coming off. We do have good traction on our roads right now, for the most part, for the conditions, but they don't have the amount of traffic like 75 has, or 58. But we do have traction on our roads, and as I say, we worked 2 crews here yesterday, 2 shifts, and then we also started an early morning shift, started at 4:30. And at this point, we're waiting to see what the weather's going to do. If the snow stops, we may not need a second shift for this evening, since we have treated it, and we're just keeping the traction on the road.
At a call this morning, you mentioned on the chip and seal, you spray a compound down on all 200.
Salt brine, yes, sir.
Okay, you spray that down on all roads. Then
We
you
did
follow
this
that
time.
up with a salt compound on top of it.
We did this time. We actually sprayed, that was our pre-treatment, was a salt brine. And so we had sprayed all of the hard surface roads this time. We don't normally do that. We generally spray just the hot mix asphalt that does not have the chip seal onto it, because it seems to be a little slicker.
So their
But this
question
time we did
was,
it.
is it economical to to spray down the chip and seal road.
Uh,
I wasn't sure they was getting the effect out of it that it needed to get out of it.
It's a little bit,
Salt.
it's a little bit different. The thing is once you spray it down, then what you're wanting it to do is actually dry. And so now you have the salt residue on the surface. And then you allow the moisture to come back and activate it. And then at that point, it activates it, and it basically provides a layer underneath there that's going to be wet. And so once we start getting some sun, and you can even have sun at 20 degrees, and once you start getting some of the sun and you have that moisture layer underneath there, then once we hit it with the plows, it generally just starts flying out. And so that's where we're at. We're ready for it. Right now, only thing we can do is we continue to get different layers. We got snow initially, we got drizzle, freezing rain on top of it. Now we're getting another snow on top of that. Is the best thing we can do is maintain traction onto it, and that's where we're using a combination of our chips and our salt.
That's a question I had, or a question they had. Did we need both passes? So
Yes, and it will. What you're going to find is in the chip seal, you don't have that smooth surface, but you have those pockets that actually that salt residue sits inside those pockets, so now ice cannot necessarily sit inside those pockets. And so a lot of times it'll come out a little easier. So, okay?
okay, I'll try to explain it to them.
It definitely works better on a smoother surface,
Yeah.
but we felt that with this snow, since we weren't going to have rain, and that's the other factor too, you can't just put down the salt brine, because if you put it down and you have more than a 1/4 inch, they say it'll actually wash that salt brine away. But this time we saw it was going to be a rather dry snow, it wasn't going to be blowing, and so with that, we had the time and the resources, so we went ahead and treated all the roads. So.
With a spray down, there's no question down in the Leroy area, it's much better on the smooth road than it is on chip and seal.
You just don't notice it as much, because you have something that kind of holds on to it just a little bit, and that's that chip seal, that rough surface. So. That's all I have.
Did you have a time frame on moving these containers for the fire department?
Well, initially they were talking Wednesday, but with the weather as it is,
I don't know if it was this month, next month.
next month would be better actually, because we do have some folks vacationing, trying to burn 160 hours, and so that's what we're doing with. If they're not in a rush, we're okay, and Tad spoke back and forth with Wolf Creek, and it seems like that's okay with them as well, that schedule.
You know, right now, Wayne, we're ahead of schedule, but that's good, we can stay ahead of schedule if we can, but Mr. Roburn, was in last week with his son Tom, we talked about the Matthias Lake.
Yes.
And one of our plans last year, one of our projects, was to do a lot of work on Matthias Lake project there for a couple miles to try to improve the drainage. And of course, I've only been involved in it for 3 years, but I know and heard it's been an issue of discussion, for 20 years or maybe even further back than that. I don't know what your plans are for moving forward on this for 2020, but my personal thoughts is there are enough issues out there. We need to put a good plan in place and try to get everything resolved we possibly can. I know when I was at the elevator, we'd done a huge amount of work for Mr. Roburn. Of course, we call him Frosty. Done a huge amount of work with him on fertilizer, chemical, whatever it may be. And I know there's been some dramatic changes because of the lack of drainage the last number of years. So I'm sure that's going to be in your plan for next year to move forward on that. And we all know it's fairly flat there for 2.5 miles, so drainage will never be a perfect, but I'm just interested in what your thoughts were on moving ahead and if we can put that plan in place to hopefully resolve the issues that's out there.
We do. I think we have a good plan for 2019, but the weather just wasn't accommodating us with all the flooding that we had, and so it just moves a year. We're going to have the same plan, and the biggest one on that, and it's definitely going to help everybody that's on the west side of the road, is we're taking a much larger ditch, on the west side of the road, which is Native Road, and we've already had the power poles moved. And so this ditch is actually gonna be much larger than most normal ditches. Because what we're trying to accommodate there is volume. When you have a low flow type situation, you have low velocity, then the best thing that you can do is actually create storage or volume for the water to be able to come off into the ditch. Now, it's not to say it won't be filled. It potentially most likely will be filled. But we're going to run that clear down to the Williams property, just north of the Williams property. Then at that point, we're going to cross under the road. Then we're going to continue that ditch along the east side of the road all the way down to Ninth Road, I believe it is. And then at that point, we turn it and then go to that last structure that actually gets the drainage down to Wolf Creek, to the creek itself. And so that's phase one. Phase two needs to be addressing Matthias Lake, and that would be the berm or the dam that actually exists. And we've had Mr. Nelson come in. I mean, some work that you had done is actually had Mr. Nelson come in. I'm not saying that we're going to have that one done here next year, but I would say that would have to be the next phase. But that phase needs to involve the landowner. That phase needs to involve Mr. Nelson to be part of this, because it's our right-of-way is about in the center of that dam for the most part. So the other half of it, the other half that you need to actually place that protective barrier, which, you know, we talked about rip-wrapping and different things like that to stop the failure of the dam here in the, you know, in the future. You're going to have the landowner to be part of that approval as well, part of that process. And we've also talked about, just right there at 11th Lane, is you have those 3 concrete pipes that are just right there at the corner of that intersection. And so you have those 3 pipes, so now what you have to do is continue to work with Mr. Nelson, because now you're on private property, and continuing to get that water to flow into Matthias Lake. Then there needs to be an outlet structure, and this is something that we had visited about with Mr. Nelson as well, is to construct actually an outlet structure on the of the lake itself. Now, of course, Mr. Nelson wants to keep it towards the southwest corner of the lake. The original drainage is back to the southeast corner. That was what Forrest had brought up. But those issues are on private property. There's nothing that, you know, we can do. What would make the better solution? I think there's going to have to be that agreement with the landowner to be able to come up with that answer, what he would be agreeable to. That's phase 2. Phase 3 must be addressing that ditch that goes down private property, the ditch that was put back in about the 30s or 50s in that area, and that drains everything. That's where we actually have those larger pipes right there on 11th Lane. That's the one we've been talking about too. We've done what we could, but also too, those are the letters that come from the township. Those are the letters that the county attorney had stated to the township that they have the ability to take action through the statutes to allow that ditch to be actually cleaned out. That's going to take other involvement. That's, once again, that's the township. Can the county act on it? I have not looked into that. I think it would be an attorney discussion to look into what the county's responsibility if the township doesn't act onto it. There might be some statutorily legislation in there that allows the county, but I don't know. I know Forrest has brought that up a couple of times. But once again, that's out of road and bridge. I would say that what you're going to have there, that must be addressed as well. You have those 3 issues that's going to help improve it. You do have, once again, you have low flow, you have flat ground, and you have everything that's causes the problems. And the causing the problems is the silt and the debris with low flow conditions that basically allows it to build up. And it must be maintained. It must be maintained regularly. But it's going to be those 3 things, and And I'm not speaking anything new. I know that our approach to the ditch is fairly new. How we're approaching it, what we're proposing to have in 2020, we were actually proposing in 2019. I know that one's different, but everything else that I've just said really has been in a file that's been over 30+ years in going, and there's been multiple engineers, including myself, looking at this. There's also been engineers from the Department of Ag. There's been Water Resources has been involved through this whole file.
I talked to them, so.
And so the thing is this is nothing new, and I just hate to say it, but we know the solutions, but there's just not been any movement to get there. And how you can do that, I don't know. I know that I've done everything I have. I believe that actually I have done more than the previous engineers, because I've had at least 3 public meetings, 2 openly with the townships at different times, where I have invited the community, the township itself, to come meet with us. And I've had these discussions, and we all pointed out that there's a problem, but we just need to move forward onto them.
I visited with the County Attorney Wade Friday, and I talked a little bit about, that lake used to drain out the southeast corner.
Mm-hmm.
If that was put back in place, it would be a lower cost for us to work on the west side. To me, it'd be a lower cost to, but then the township board's gonna have to get involved in that, is my understanding. But that's where that lake drained for years and years and years, because there was 2 split fields there.
Yeah.
And Frosty suggested it's been gradually filled in a little bit, where all the drainage now is going out the southwest, which is creating more issues for the county. It's also drowning out 2 or 3 more acres for the Nelson quarries, because there's a lot of water sets there. Do we need to totally get aggressive and try to bring that water back out the southeast, which was a natural flow for a lot of years?
I would say that's definitely would help improve the water that's going into the ditch now, because Forrest had even brought up the fact that the county had cut that ditch in an angle to that new structure that was, I believe, on 10th Road. That is true, but that's because the water was coming from Matthias Lake coming down there. There's no question
that's
about
after the
it.
southeast drainage got filled in to what
After it got filled in.
Yeah.
But it still has to go back. If you're gonna improve that, you're gonna have to actually clean out that ditch. I mean, you can't keep putting water into a plugged drain and expect it to drain any better. That ditch needs to be cleaned out all the way down to the creek.
Yeah.
And that's where it's at. And every one of those structures that have been put in since the landfill, any structure that I've ever replaced was replaced at the same size. And I did that for a reason, because I knew that we had problems down there, that you cannot change the structure size without affecting another property. So if I change the structure, make it smaller, then I restrict the flow upstream, okay? I improve the flow downstream because I choked it up. If I make the structure larger, then I increase the flow upstream, but I cause more flow downstream. Okay, so I help the people upstream, but I hurt the people downstream. So cause and effect, anything and everything that you do. The thing is on these structures is they were initially designed when that FAS route came in. So the structure sizes were designed, and I have been maintaining those same structure designs. But until we clean the drain, you're not going to improve much of anything, and I've been saying that from the very beginning. You got to clean that drain, and that's going to be the key. It's not going to solve everything, but putting our ditch on the west side of Native Road will definitely help Forrest, because we're also taking out every one of those pipes that allows Matthias Lake to cross back over that road, because we're taking out every one of those pipes along Native Road and then putting that larger ditch on the west side, and that will help the drainage there.
What's the commission's, any thoughts about seeing if we can get that Matthias Lake to drain out the southeast corner? And that's probably going to take to get an attorney involved.
Well, I talked to Wayne last week, and this has been a frustration to the county and to the commission ever since I've been on the commission. And I asked him point blank, I said, do you have the ability to fix this? Or do we need to hire outside engineering? Wayne agreed with Frosty on most of his remarks and said that if he had the go-ahead, he could fix it. Now, if we believe that, I'm willing to say we need to push forward and have legal counsel advise us and get this thing fixed, because it's been a thorn in the county's side for years and years, and we owe it to the people out there to get it fixed.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, it needs to be fixed the best it possibly can for as flat as it is for 2.5 miles. My thought is, and I know it's a little inconvenient to split that field back, but to me, that lake needs to go out the southeast corner again. But to have that happen, we'll probably have to retain legal counsel to make it, to do that. Although Wade and I talked Friday a little bit, and I'm not sure Wade's had much time to evaluate what we talked about.
So I know as much about Matthias Lake as what's been presented in the commission meeting today. And if I understand correctly, there's a file that goes back to the 30s with documents and what's been done, what hasn't been done, who said what, all of those things. So for me to even have a general idea of what options are available, I need to catch myself up to speed on historically what's happened. And then at that point in time, it may be that finding somebody who, well, I'll look at what you have, and then I can make a recommendation from there once I have the chance to figure out exactly what's happened and where we are today. But it sounds like there's many years involved in this up to get to where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
And in all fairness, I think I need to know what's happened up to this point to be able to accurately evaluate and see what the options are. So if you have a file, or if somebody has a file, copy it for me and send it over, and then I can cull through it and see what's what.
Okay.
Well, I've been on this, I've heard this for 12 or 13 years. I heard the township board come in and they told us that if the county would kind of clean their ditches and do what they do, the township board would take another look at it. I think Wayne has stepped up and the commission said, okay, we're gonna do this. I think Wayne's idea of the ditch down the west side is probably one of the smartest things I've heard.
That'd be a huge
for
plus.
a lot of deal, because it's also gonna take care of some of that water on the east side, because that water, they're not gonna be running together.
Mm-hmm.
I think instead of jumping into this and wanting to start telling everybody what to do, we need to do what we said we're gonna do. If we do that, then let's look and see actually what we need to do after we do the ditch, instead of saying, well, we're gonna do the ditch, but it's not gonna work, so we're gonna do something else. So I think that, what we're doing, and I understand, and I'm not sure Frosty did, but I understand that the reason, that because of the weather, we probably would have had that project pretty done if it hadn't been for the weather. So we're gonna do it next year. It got delayed a year, and if we had done that project, I guarantee you Frosty wouldn't have been in here, because we would have been doing something.
Well,
So I think what we need to do is just kind of sit back, let Wayne finish that project, and then take a look at it and see what we really need to do. Things might change once we get that ditch done.
it may possibly change in moving ahead. I still don't think it would hurt to have Wade be a little bit familiar with what the record is behind. But, yeah, fully agree. If we had the last year's project completed, it would, we might not be having near the discussion we are having today, or we might have a different idea of a direction to proceed to finish it.
Proceed as planned.
Okay, everybody agree to kind of proceed as we planned for last year, and hopefully the weather will allow the county road and bridge to get that particular project finished.
next.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Uh,
Wayne, thanks for the update, and Wade, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, 'cause I only talked to you about it Friday. I knew you hadn't had time to do the discovery that you always do, so, but maybe you could do be brought up to speed and do a little discovery, and then you could maybe advise us a little more down the road too.
Someone give me a file with everything that goes with it, going back to the thirties, is that what we're talking about? Then I at least can have a better idea of what exactly we're talking about, because I don't know very much right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the main issues developed is when it was converted into one field instead of two. To me, that probably was when the main issues developed, because that forced the water in different flow.
I'll just get with you and see what time you're available and get the file to you, and then we can visit about it.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Do you have just a couple of things? Next week, what I'd like to do is bring the list of projects. Now, of course, they're gonna be somewhat, but at least there'll be projects to give you some ideas of where we're going. Normally, we do have a rotor, but I'll give you a list of the projects that we're proposing. This would be our chip seals, asphalt, and different things. And that would be next week. The following week is what I'd like is on the 30th, is then have that as the public meeting, because we're needing to let the public have an opportunity to visit about projects that they'd like to see as well. We can make that basically in the newspaper. I'll also present to you then the projects that we've completed, the work orders, the costs associated with that, so I'll have those. I would like to just give you a heads up. I have on Old Highway 50, I have GSI, and this actually kind of started before the wind farm approached us. The wind farm there in Lyon County or Redding, is to actually do core samples on Old Highway 50. And so the wind farm, it didn't actually, we did not come to a point where we could work with a haul route, but it also brought in some bids from GSI to be able to do cores, and this would be 2 cores per mile from 75 all the way to Angus Road. And so that would be just under $5,000 is what they're proposing. And so I'm just giving you information. If that's if you're agreeable, then I'm going to go ahead and basically have GSI come in. They won't be able to do anything until probably about the middle of January. But really need to see what that concrete looks like, keeping in mind that road, that concrete's been there since the 30s, and we just don't really know how strong that concrete is. And so before we spend much more onto it, then I would like to see what our road pavement looks like. The other thing is too, there is an application for high-risk rural roads that's been out for KDOT, and I will be making an application for that one, and that is one of the applications that I would be proposing. 20-foot roadway would qualify as far as safety or lack of safety, and for high-risk rural roads in that application it would work. And then just to update you on 75, where we were looking at the shouldering, and then we came back and they had that cost share program, is I had went back and looked at acceleration, deceleration lanes along 75 at each one of the asphalt intersections of our county road asphalt intersections on 75, and had made that proposal. Now, I had only put in the 15% that we had agreed to within basically what Coffee County would commit. But through the application process, there were several communities that had actually put in more like 25%. And so they were the ones that was initially selected for the most part that I'm aware of. I believe there was several more applicants than they had money for throughout the state. That seems to be the trend right now. Need. for transportation. But I just wanted to give you an update there that we will be in the second round for that application, but just food for thought, if that's something that you'd like to do, I believe our application would actually be more received if we're able to put in more money towards that cost share, if that's something that you'd really like to drive for. Otherwise, we wait for KDOT to have the funds to be looking at the shouldering, asphalt shouldering along 75. That was originally proposed and it was originally on their schedule. It's not to say that they're going to get there, but it is basically part of their plan. As you went to those meetings, you saw that as well. Okay.
How much of a plus would it be if we changed that to 20 or 25%? Would
Well,
that meet our request to move it ahead a year or two or three, which is probably an unknown? How important is it for us to pick up a little bit bigger piece of the action?
well, I feel that it would justify the safety aspect. We've been dealing with this, and I think Bob would remember too, or recall, we have folks down there on 8th Road. These are folks down in your area that were concerned about heavy truck traffic that's coming right up on them, and they have no way of getting out of the way to be able to make that turn. We've had, actually even the city clerk make comment on trying to get off on 15th Road. And now we had done some asphalt on that. We had improved that a little bit when they were doing that work on 75, but that really is not a designed off-ramp or acceleration lane. We could do better. So in short, I believe that we do have a safety aspect that we could definitely improve within our community of Coffee County for the residents, because this would be for the residents. It'd be the local traffic that's trying to get off on the road, trying to get off on their roads. So it would help definitely local traffic. It's not necessarily meant to help the traveling traffic that's going through 75 because they're not using those intersections. But local traffic, I believe that it would justify the additional expenditure if we put towards that application. And I feel that we would have a better chance at it. Now, keeping in mind, 25% is only for the construction cost. It does not take care of the engineering cost. The engineering cost, I could do the work on that, and the surveying cost that would go along with it, and make the application.
What's the expected cost of the project?
We were about $120,000 on that expected cost at this point, unless they wanted to change it.
The total cost for that, was that our exposure?
That would have been basically our exposure.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you increase that up to 25, you'd add another 75,000 to it, so give or take. That's something we need to take a serious look at, of making a change to hopefully
Does that include that intersection at Howard General, Dairy Queen?
Yes, I did add that particular one. Now, keeping in mind, all we're doing on these is minimum amount of embankment. Is the assumption right now would be that we'd be using the existing shoulder as much as possible. We would widen it slightly. We would improve the compaction of that shouldering with basically a cement treated type base. Of course, you don't know until you get into the soils to see what you actually have. But that would be the improvement, and then we'd be placing 6 to 8 inches of hot mix asphalt as far as our surface course onto it. We would do, at this point, I was looking at the county, when we get the project, it would not be in 2020, just the funds could be basically allocated to say that you would do it. You could potentially see the project actually going in 2021. But at that particular one, the county, we could do the earthwork, we could do the engineering, the surveying, and then we'd hire a contractor to come in and do the hot mix asphalt. But anything that's on the state system, one, is going to require approval. Everything that we do is going to require approval by KDOT, local projects, and that will be going through their review process. It will also require the standards and contracts associated with KDOT projects, because we're on the state highway system. So that means all traffic control and all permits, requirements that we would have would need to be met as well. So it's a little bit different than trying to do our own project. So, that would be just one thing to caution there. But it is possibly a 2021 project if we had basically increased our commitment towards that. I believe they're doing another evaluation in March. They're putting it back in there in the pool to be reevaluated for another round. And so it is a possibility. You don't have to make a decision today.
You said, it sounded like we wouldn't need to do it today, but we can at least.
We can talk about it next Monday, if you'd like.
Well, I'd just like to throw out consideration on this. We're keep talking about Highway 75, and I realize I have more miles than 75 than anybody else in the county in my district. But one of the most critical roads we have in the county, one of the most dangerous, is Angus and 58 Highway. We had 2 fatalities there a couple of years ago. We don't even talk about that. I mean, what we talk about is 75 and getting people into Dollar General and those type of places. You know, we have other places on state highways too that are pretty darn dangerous. I think we ought to be taking a look at some of the others instead of just up and down 75 all the way. Heck, I'd like to have turning lanes in my driveway, but we don't. So I think when we look at this, let's look at some of the few of the other places that we have.
Angus and 58, that's almost a T there. I'm not exactly sure what it would take to improve that, other than maybe more signage that make people more alert of that intersection, or T, because it's almost a T. There's a little bit of a road, I think, going on south. There's not much.
Not much. That one was.
We did have 2 lives lost there.
Yes.
3 or 4 years ago.
But
I'm not
all
sure.
signage does is take care of that. And signage, we have to put signage up for Dollar General and the other roads too.
I do
Why don't you
recall
sit out here on the highway sometime and watch these semis fly through town on the right-hand side, and people are trying to get into Dollar General. It's not very safe. I'm sure Mr. Rogers and Roney's probably seen it, and even some of the city cops have seen it. These people fly through town, semis fly through town, somebody's trying to get into Dollar General. I'm surprised actually the state even let them do what they did at that entrance.
Well, I agree with that.
I mean, it's just not safe. Handicapped people that live in Apple Grove Apartments and or Burlington Place Apartments cannot get to Dollar General safely at all.
And what I was initially proposing was somewhat minimum in that area. There's more that can be done in that application.
Well, and then you got Journeys sitting right out there just north of Vinton's with handicapped people turning into there, and no turn lane there either.
But, you know, improving safety, I believe that the acceleration, deaccelerations on 75 is definitely going to improve safety for the residents of Coffee County. 58 Highway, that intersection was investigated, and even up in the Topeka level, I mean, they basically reviewed that intersection. I'm not saying that something cannot be done. Yes, there is. We just haven't looked at it to say, can we add that to that cost share? And that would be a different application. But Bob, there is a possibility there that maybe what can be done is the intersection could be widened out and more of a turn lane type approach in that one, because it does kind of act as a T. And what you could do is you could widen it.
It's almost a T.
The key on accidents is you do not have an exit. You do not have a way to avoid the accident. And so all you do is when you have the road and you have a ditch, that's basically your exit. Is either one is you take the collision, or one you take the ditch. But when you basically widen the shoulders and having a driving surface, you can improve safety, because then they have an exit, and that's what you're trying to do. So 58, that intersection, we can look at that if that's what you'd like to do, and we can actually add that to the application and see if they would consider that as well. It would be just a little bit more, but you know, when we're getting 75% of the dollar, I mean, if we're going clear up to 25%, and we're getting still 75 cents on the dollar, and we're improving safety for the citizens of the county, I think it's good money to be spent. So,
I always wondered why.
Yeah, Randy, you had your hand up. I'll recognize you if you got a comment.
58 and Angus, I'm a law enforcement officer, and every time I travel that, as I come up that intersection from the east going westbound on 58, my stomach is in my throat watching, because of that Angus Road coming up to it. And that was after Alan and TJ got killed. And that intersection is horrible. Anybody that's local, and I'm getting a little emotional about it because it hits close to home. But I always said, why can't they do rumble strips or gouges or something that gets your attention? Because you kind of get lulled to sleep going southbound on Angus because it is such good roadway, and then it just comes up on you. If there was some earlier warning devices, and I know we put stop ahead, this and that, but something, you know, those speed strips get your attention.
I brought that issue up right after it happened, or first year I was here, and they said they couldn't do it in those locations.
Wow.
It takes specific locations where they can put the rumble strips in. So I didn't follow it up anymore, and that may be something we need to, and that's like, you know, 12th Road near North Leroy on Shetland, we lost a young man 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
And we've got, our county's no different than any other county.
Right.
We got a lot of intersections that could be
It is.
made safer through rumble strips. And you take we're a county with agriculture, how many blind corners have we got in our county covered up with corn that you can't see 50 feet?
Absolutely.
There's hundreds of them.
Right.
We just gotta learn to respect and live with it and hope everybody makes.
And the state did a little better there on 58, you know, I think they put some signage up and stuff that kind of, if you're traveling on 58, makes you aware that there's a dangerous intersection there, because there is dirt road, gravel
There's a
road
little bit
on
of dirt going south. Yeah.
There is. It's not the best maintained road, but.
But they did better because Wayne actually went out and talked to the state about it.
Right.
And I think one of the problems there is that we're two state deals stop, isn't it?
Well, the thing is the state actually controls the intersection. I cannot do, I wanted to put up a larger stop sign, I wanted to put up double stop signs.
Right.
They will not allow me to put
I know,
up stop signs. So I did put up flags, and without their
Right.
blessing or not, I went ahead and put up flags, because flags, when it moves, it catches your attention.
Right.
That was the ideal in that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Wayne, not on your side, it's the state that
Yeah.
lacks common sense.
That what we could do. But the thing is if we can widen it out and provide basically that zone where folks can get away from an accident, that could definitely help. I mean, you can improve that intersection, but you're gonna have a lot more earthwork to be able to do it, because you're gonna have to widen it out. That's definitely a possibility.
Just like 75 highway just north of town, that really does need to be 4-lane on north
If you want
before
to
you
propose 4-lane for Burlington to New Strawn, I'm sure there's quite a few people sitting in here.
We'd like that.
Who would like to have that, because we use that road an awful lot.
I agree, and at least at New Strawn, we do have 4-lane for turning, you know, to get in town. I'm not saying it's not important, but Dollar General and then Journeys where they're at, the state really could do something to improve that. But how do you get the state to act?
Well,
Look like what he's doing and.
Well, it sounds like the next review will
help
need
you.
to be done by March, so sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks, early January, we need to finalize and make a different.
If there's anything we can do to endorse it or support it,
Yeah.
15th Road, any of those places along 75 where we got people, that's a little higher profile intersections and stuff.
Well, this is a big start, and I will move forward with that and do what I can. But I also say this is a good start too for Matthias Lake, and we will try to do what we can on that one as well.
Okay,
So,
Wayne, appreciate you coming in and giving
Thank
us that update. We'll take about a 10-minute break. 5 to 10 minute break.
Is there any way we could, hey Don, is there any way we could jump to the end? I have Debbie here from the district court and take her up real quick.
Pardon?
So she can get back to.
You ready to go ahead?
Let's go ahead and take care of that.
Oh, yeah.
I seen Debbie there, I wasn't sure what she was.
Yeah.
So
Keep 'em
Wayne,
alive,
Wayne,
guys.
Wayne,
Don't want any of you to get in trouble, you know, have to see me.
when I see you, I run.
If we can jump to the last thing.
You need anything, holler.
Hey guys, Wayne,
Go outside. Thank you.
I'll get you.
Oh, you got 4th Wade?
I'm gonna have to take yours back.
Go right ahead.
And then
Debbie, you making this presentation or is Wade making it?
Nope, it's me.
It's Wade. I'm just here for moral support and say we need it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna sit in the hot seat because I'm in front of you as the county attorney. So I want there to be a clear line to distinguish between the two, because to me that's important. So I have Debbie here with me, and I actually have the sheriff with me too. What I just handed you is a proposal for some new courtroom technology, and over the last several months, and probably more importantly, the several weeks, but it goes back several months, we've had the opportunity to put courtroom technology on display in several different bench trials, motion hearings, and last week a jury trial. And what the conclusion is that I've come up with, and I've talked to Judge Wine, I've talked to the sheriff, I've talked to Debbie, is what we have is not, we're not where we need to be technology-wise in the courtroom. So what that led me to do several months ago was to talk to Brad, talk to Debbie, and more recently talk to the sheriff about what could we do to improve. Brad would be here, but he has another commitment, so IT has been a part of this as well. What happened, he got a hold of Doug Vanderlyn over at the school and took me over to show me what type of technology they have there, which is the StarLeaf program. I'd never heard of StarLeaf. StarLeaf is a kind of a cutting edge program that the school uses actually quite a bit. So they ran through a demo, a sample, and basically, to make a long story short, the software would allow us the ability to connect remotely with almost anywhere in the country, or maybe even the world for that matter, through this platform. And what it also has included with it an Elmo, I don't know if it's called an Elmo, but I know it is an Elmo, where you put a piece of paper and then it projects it up to a screen, and it's actually a very solid program. So to make a long story short, it's something that would be very useful in the courtroom to help aid and assist trial work, but it would also be a resource for the sheriff, because the way that it's being proposed, it's on a mobile cart. When it's on a mobile cart, then it can move about the courthouse. The example that was given to me at the school was they have teachers who apply from all across the country, and they've done interviews on the East Coast with people who are sitting on the East Coast, and they do video interviews, and you're able to see, you know, everything that you need to see. It's on a big screen. You can see it's a 65-inch television. I wanted a 70, but 65 is fine. How it would work with the sheriff's department would be for people who go to the state hospital. There's the potential to and Debbie can correct me if I'm wrong, the small courtroom, the idea would be to set it up in there, and then you could remotely have a hearing, which can occur if the technology works right, and not have the sheriff's department drive to the state hospital and then drive back and then drive back again. And you want to talk about incurring additional costs for the taxpayers of the county. That's something that, I mean, either you have to have the technology that allows them to have a meaningful hearing, or they have to be transported back and forth. This would be a way to deal with that. There's the potential to have remote hearings through different software to make that happen. It has all kinds of positives. Now, why is this on the agenda? Why is it just not being taken care of another way? Because this has been an ongoing dialogue between myself and Judge Wine. Judge Wine's position has been, he just wants whatever is in the courtroom to work. So this software works, and it has all the benefits that I indicated, and probably even a bunch that I'm not even aware of. So I'm willing to commit a quarter. The sheriff's willing to commit a quarter the district court would be willing to commit a quarter, and what my request to the board would be to commit a quarter. And why would you want to do that? Because what's being presented, although the courtroom would take priority, it would be something that could be used because it's going to be on a rolling platform. If something needed to happen in the commission room, it could be rolled up and be used to present in the commission room, or down in the training room to be used for training purposes. I think the entire courthouse, including the district court, including the county attorney's office, including the sheriff's department, and whoever else is in the courthouse could benefit by using this equipment. My guess would be it will work so well that there'll be a request at some point in time to potentially have what this unit is copied and get another one. But it's got to start somewhere. So that's why I'm before the commission in my capacity as the county attorney. I think the breakdown is approximately, the figures that you have are about $10,900 total for all the equipment, the cart, the TV, and it includes, I think, a 3-year license.
It's got a 3-year warranty on it.
Yeah.
3-year warranty.
It is, I went over to the school last November or December, and viewed the system with Brad. And I sat down, it requires power and it requires an internet connection. And that's all that it requires. And I could sit down with the console, not having ever seen it, and connect it right away through their demonstration. So it's very easily operable. The last 2 weeks of court for us have been nothing but a nightmare. Part of that has been volume, but part of it has been technology and trying to get technology that will work with what they're needing it for. And so that's one reason why we have started looking at this. And Brad's been so helpful at coming when I call him or Adam on his extension. I can't say enough about how great those guys have been for us, particularly the last couple of 3 weeks, and making themselves available for what we need to get things accomplished. So I think it's a great step to do, and I'm with Wade. I think everybody in the courthouse could make use of it at some point for something.
And I think, as I understand, like, we're trying to schedule the architects, you know, for the jail study, whether we could actually do that if we wanted to. They could do it from their office via this connection and save traveling and all, you know what I mean, scheduling and stuff, to where it would create maybe some versatility for us as well. So.
Well, at the last fiber board meeting, there was a lot of discussion about this technology, and everybody that was there was just crazy over it. I mean, they thought it was wonderful, and especially in the schools, which there's several there. So I can say they're telling me exactly how it is.
And what I didn't mention is there was an original quote that came in for $19,000. So $19,000 and $10,000 is a significant difference. Why did it go down $9,000? Because Brad investigated, and because the school, Coffee County, is a part of this. I forgot what exactly it's called. Do you remember the name of it?
I don't remember.
Coffee County Courthouse, the district court, because it's part of this consortium or whatever you call it, with that the school's a part of, gets the discount. So that $9,000 was reduced because we're a part of this county group that gets a part of this, whatever this group is.
Yeah, Fred, isn't it Coffee Can or what? Isn't that what I think they're referring to?
Okay. But I was surprised when I looked at that, it said it was 10,000, because I'd been hearing 19 over there, so.
I thought it was gonna be at least 15, so this, and kudos to Brad for investigating it, and I think he's been working with Doug Vanderlyn, and, you know, the good news is, if this is the route that everybody decides to go, if there's an issue, Doug at the school has how
many years of experience with it.
With this, and I'm sure we could call and he could or if we have an issue with equipment, he could help us swap out equipment, so.
That was a question I had, not equipment, but, so we do this, we buy it, and we got 4 entities bought into it here in the courthouse. One thing I didn't see on here was any training. I mean, obviously, if we have issues, Doug, I'm sure, would be willing to help, but it would be great to get at least Brad, but if not, maybe one person from the court and one person from the sheriff to get a little extra training from, or from Conference Technologies operating the system.
Yeah, like I said, I was able to sit down at school and poke a button, there was a phone button, poke the phone, dial the number, and the people were there. I mean, it was just, and the other thing, just as, another thing that would be helpful for the court is a lot of times when we have care and treatment cases, we do have, although it causes us issues, the ability to video conference patients, particularly from osteotomy, into the conference room. But they have to be in a particular conference room for that to work. And then if they need to talk to their attorneys, which the only time we can use this is for their temporary custody hearings, their attorneys haven't visited with them yet. So we, right now, because our technology is stationary in the courtroom, we have to clear the courtroom and wait for that attorney to visit with their client. So this being a mobile system would allow us to take that, let that attorney visit with his client in a confidential setting in the magistrate courtroom, you know, as well, rather than tying up the courtroom, because our case numbers are going up and our volume in court, particularly on Tuesdays, is crazy.
And I think based on that, if everything goes well, from my perspective, looking at it for the jail as well, because we do a lot of televideo mental health assessments or counseling, as well as we have a hard time, we're getting to where we have a hard time scheduling lawyers to see their clients, because I just don't have no place to put them, that this may be a tool, as long as the lawyer has internet connection and, you know, a place to push the button, we might be able to resolve some of that, and so use technology versus trying to figure out a physical location. So I think there's some potential there. So
Wade, where do we need to go with this? You know, each department's gonna stand $2,750, give or take.
$27,34.69.
We're less than 10,000 for every department. We just need a consensus so the commission move ahead, or we need to put it in motion.
The quote is over 10,000. That's my question. It's over 10,000. If our policy says it's over 10,000, we gotta have either that, or you gotta have a way, either a single source or some explanation of why we go with this. And I'm not opposed to it, but the quote, it doesn't matter who's paid for it, it's how it's split up. It's still over 10,000.
Didn't know for sure how that needed to be handled.
So have you got a solution for that? It's, I don't know, sometimes we just go single quote, single source, or.
Brad did have another quote from Zoom.
Yeah,
Wasn't it Zoom? And it was not the right comparability with this.
Brad's been working on this for some time, and, I mean,
So if
I
there was a
wanted
motion
it
drafted and brought to us next week, it wouldn't be a major issue.
no, this is just to kind of give you
That's the way to proceed, I think.
the idea of what's going on behind the scenes. While I have everybody here, I looked at the agenda, and it wasn't a very,
I am proceeding forward with this, guys, out of my budget. And so it would just be the matter of everybody else that wants to take part in it.
which then, like the sheriff's budget,
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
how that
because
works
I've already
out.
told Brad to order it. It's something that we need so desperately that I have the money in my budget. I'm proceeding with it. I told Brad to order it.
This would be to sort of backfill and allow the entire courthouse to take advantage of it. Otherwise, it sits down in the district court, and it sits there, and then when it's not in use, then it's not in use. The only thing that Judge Wine indicated to me is if everybody's gonna be a part of this, then jury trials, courtroom takes precedence, and outside of that, he didn't mind or have an issue with it being used and shared across the courthouse. So my goal was to have it taken advantage of by everybody in the courthouse.
John?
John, I had a question.
I'm sorry.
Being that district court, they don't follow our policy, our purchasing policy, because you guys do yours through the state or whatever.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, would it be a thing where it's just gonna be about $6,000 for the three of you guys, to where you wouldn't have to necessarily follow the policy, being she's moving forward anyway?
I was thinking Deb can do what Deb wants anyway. To me, the issue is, does the commission want to buy into it with our part? The sheriff can buy into it. He doesn't have to have our authority. Whoever, Wade can buy into it. I guess the question to me is, because she has that authority to do that with the court system, and yeah, your kids say you can do what you want, but, to me, the question is just the commission ready to buy in with their amount of it? That's the only question I think we have here now.
So the commission's portion would be less than $3,000.
Yeah, it's 27. That's kind of my question to start with. Where's the commission set on this? I mean, I have no problem in supporting it,
I think it's a good deal.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
Okay.
It'd just be a matter of putting the money back into the district court budget. From different budget, I think, the way I understand
Motion to
it.
approve the deal.
I think a motion would be for 27,3469. My 27,3469 would come from my diversion fund.
I will move the commission to do that, and I suppose we take that from general. The commission put their share in from general.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor
I'll second.
to approve this by Bob. Fred is second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
It was a long way around, but we got there.
Well, that's,
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your input on that.
well, thanks for bringing it to our
Something
attention.
that's badly needed.
If you've been in court,
You ready for a break? We're gonna take a 5 to 10 minute break.
We had court the other day and jury trial, and here's this Elmo machine, and it's right, and you couldn't see the witness testifying. It's like, get back.
then you have to turn the lights on. And then
Turn them on, turn them on.
and then turn the lights on the Elmo, and there's a glare anyway you do
Doug
it.
swears by this, they swear I can even do it. I don't know about that, but.
It's canceled.
Oh, yes. I believe, all the meetings have been moved to
Yes.
Wednesday now.
Yeah.
Are we on
Okay.
cancel?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance yet to, I was gonna let the commission.
Now I know what you're talking about, Fred.
Yeah,
I may or may not be here.
and that's where,
I'm supposed to go to Branson, but so grab like Mary's coffee real quick.
roads will be better by then.
Yeah, for your guys coming here, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. Some of them have to come from the Kansas City area. It's worse up there. It wasn't, I mean, it's not life and death on this, having to interview, so. But that machine would be one of those things that would allow us just via the internet, wheel it up here and set it right here, and you can conduct it. We had an applicant, as I understand it, that I checked in. I had a guy from Iowa apply for a job with us.
I don't know who they
It was
are.
gonna be a long drive,
At
and
what
not,
times, because
I mean, it just didn't work out, whereas we could've done an interview with him, as long as he had internet and knew how to use it.
Technology's good.
Yeah, it's leaving me behind.
I can't wait to be like tonight.
Yeah, I struggle with technology, something horrible. People say, that's, I remember when Y2K happened, and we were sitting at the sheriff's office consoles at midnight, and we had everything triple backed up, and didn't know what was gonna happen, and nothing happened. I think the worst that happened is the computers couldn't figure out how to do 2000.
Yeah.
And,
Wasn't that big of a deal.
but, technology was supposed to make life easier and, make everything simpler and quicker. And I think it's actually, technology has made the workload probably 3 times more difficult.
Probably.
Just because if it can do it, we want it. But, it is, just like, can you imagine back in the, you know, they said it in the 70s and the 60s. Every decade has something where a major change in society, you know, in the workplace or whatever that changes stuff.
I can remember back when I was in school, I had to type letters and papers.
With carbon paper.
Yeah, and used, white.
Yes, the little strips, the little whiteout strips, and you had to.
Frustrating.
Yeah, you had to put the little whiteout strip in there and push
Was
the
you aware
button.
that was coming?
I figured.
And so.
So that.
And then.
I knew it wasn't gonna just go away.
And then.
By either party.
And then you, took the carbon paper and you had to put the sheet of carbon paper in
that
between.
thing.
And then roll it in
Roll it.
there. But electric typewriters, that was the cat's meow now when we went, instead of having to.
That IBM Selectric.
Yes. You just like that stuff's good. That was
But
funny.
when the 286 came out, you could actually type your paper in there and have a little disc.
I remember 1982, my senior year, I took a computer programming class because I thought, you know, I wanted to learn about technology or computers back then. And the room where they actually stored the computers was probably twice as big as this room. And big old honking machines and about 40 degrees in there. And I learned real quick I didn't want no part of that. And you had cards that you had to do program, punch cards that you had. Then they come out with the little, 4 or 5 inch floppy disk.
You what?
Joanne Apperly.
No, Joanne, yeah,
Who?
Peritos.
the chamber director.
Oh, chamber director, okay. Well, there's nothing, I
I
had
think
no
I
idea.
put did I put the envelope on there?
Yeah, but it just says.
It doesn't say.
See if you can stay in my place. Stay.
Right now, we just got Wade for 2 cases. Mike Roney's gonna give us a quick update on changes on we had 2 businesses coming in this afternoon because of the weather, they're not gonna be coming in. Mike was gonna give us an update on the new time changes.
I gave him to
9,
me
1,
Wednesday.
I'm sorry?
9, 1, and 3 on
Two.
Wednesday.
9, 1, and 3 Wednesday?
9, 1, and 2.
Okay, 9, 1, 2.
Right. So, you're good. You're good.
Mike, the one Wednesday is not 3, right? It's 2, the last one?
Correct. It
Okay.
was 9, 1, and 2.
Yeah.
Where are you doing those at?
This room right here,
If we can.
if we can, we talked to,
We ought to probably ask permission first.
I did.
We talked about that last week or 2 weeks ago.
And there was
Yeah, I talked
So
to
these are
you.
about an hour interviews in, so could we have a meeting?
Kind of set it up kind of like we did the wage classification, interviews.
Let them do a presentation and then questions and
And I
answers.
talked to Brad, he's gonna have everything set up, and in fact, one of them called last week, and wanted to know what all they needed to bring, and all they need to bring is their laptop.
Correct.
And Brad will have it for them to.
Set up and where.
Yeah, and he put up a new screen up.
Oh, cool. And we figured if you guys were gonna come to it, it'd be easier just to have it in this room as well, so.
So we're primarily gonna be observers, Mike, and you're gonna be doing,
Yep, and if you guys had a question or something, you could interject, and I mean, just
And I know Judge Wine was gonna,
try to be here.
well, yeah, he didn't know if he could make it or not, but if not, he was gonna submit some questions that he may have.
Oh, okay.
Because he's pretty up on the future of bonding and that sort of thing in the courts.
okay. You got anything else you need to bring before the commission day, Mike, or him? We'll just see you Wednesday at 9 o'clock, correct? Okay. Wade, what do you have for us here today?
what don't I have for you? So the first thing I want to talk about is, I don't remember the timeline, but I had prepared a revision to the purchasing policy as it relates to gifts. And then I had left that, and then I don't think that has been resolved as of today. Unless I missed it, but I left a copy, and then I think that was around the timeline when the conference was, there's sometime before the conference, and then maybe we just didn't revisit it. So I want to plant the seed that needs to be probably reviewed and a decision made one way or another. That looks like it. So it doesn't have to be done, today, but
I remember.
and then as the agenda indicates, I'm going to be requesting executive sessions that indicates there's 2 cases of ongoing litigation. Well, that is now 4, so we'll need to have several executive sessions.
Your first one is?
So, my first request is for a motion for the board to recess into executive session for consultation with the county counselor to discuss ongoing litigation for matters deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, specifically KSA 75-4319B2, and 15 minutes.
To include the commission, yourself, and come back to
Correct.
commission chambers.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, Cody has moved. Tom is second. Any discussion? Got that all written down, Angie?
Right.
I'm not sure we need to have you read it back since you're referring to Wade's notes.
Smells pretty good now.
Really just start this looking back up again.
Okay.
That recorded. Yeah, got a motion and a second to go into executive session for 15 minutes for the commission, the county attorney, and return back to here. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried 5-0. We're in at 10:48, amount 1103.
What was your Saturday night, Pete?
I almost made it. Last minute Christmas shopping. All right, where to start?
Got a little bit of time in.
Yeah.
It's gonna be getting close.
Still, same question, where to start?
Okay.
And technically, I thought in the Coma Core training we had,
I just need a clock over there too.
Did we get that discussed, Wade, or you
Yep.
satisfied?
That just gets that one going.
So,
What's the next one you have for us, Wade?
I'm gonna make the same exact request for the same exact amount of time, 15 minutes, except for the other one was what I'll just caption as litigation 1. This will be litigation 2. And same reasons. Request for a motion for the board to recess into executive session for consultation with county counselor to discuss ongoing county litigation for matters deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exception, coma, same statutory provision, KSA 75-4319 B2, and this one, same parties.
Okay. Need somebody to move to, go into executive session in 15 minutes for the commission and the county attorney, and we come back to commission chambers.
I'll make a motion.
Tom has moved, Fred is second, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I guess maybe I should have asked, have you got that all
Yes,
recorded?
I have it, yes.
I should have asked that before we probably took to a vote, but you're recording exactly what Wade's presenting to you. We went 11:06, come out 11:21.
Wade, I guess you're aware that all those meetings are recorded for the zoning.
Watch Michigan play, take time off.
Now I'm gonna go see if I can get a house cleared out. Deal with state issues which I've had people have to go and check on them to make sure pipes haven't burst and things like that because of the cold. But fortunately, I haven't had to deal with that. That's no fun.
I need to take a 2-minute break. Run to the restroom before the next.
Run, Forrest.
Okay. We'll
No running in the halls.
We'll take a couple 3-minute break here.
I'll check on my boys and their snow removal.
Might be busy all day removing snow.
Yeah, it's still coming down pretty good too.
Like they've been several places.
Most of us can be south of here. We got less than an inch at home.
Really?
That was yesterday,
Yeah, that's not counting what we're getting now.
and last night.
Last night. It was horrible between Manhattan and Council Road yesterday coming home.
Yeah, Gene said he was up there for graduation.
So I'm gonna have to take 2 iPods.
Was that a nice graduation?
It was. It's nice how they do it because they don't do it for the entire campus. They break it down like an hour and a half and do it 2 days.
That's what they did in Wichita State last year for Aaron. There were four different groups.
Back in the day when I graduated, they put us,
something
then,
that gets
in
dropped
May,
into
we
the
would sit on the football field.
2
And
iPods.
we'd have to sit through everyone.
And that's what I did at University of Minnesota, 35,000 students, and they did the whole thing.
What percentage of students actually showed up for it though?
Oh, I have no idea.
In Florida State, you know, that they did it, same thing on the football field, but I doubt half, out of 1,200 graduates, probably wasn't half of them there.
They still announce their name.
See, they didn't, they don't do. Because they hand the card to the announcer. The only ones that get announced are the ones that's in attendance.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're back in. Wade, what do you have for us this time?
All right, so we're gonna have to have 2 other executive sessions, but before we do that, what I was looking for. Give you an update on the self-report to the Attorney General's office on what initially started as the recording. I don't remember when it started, back in March or May. So I self-reported on behalf of the board to the AG's office to look into it, and the Attorney General's office requested information. That information was presented. One of the things they wanted, and just the high recap, was for all county officials who are tied to COMA to attend the COMA Cora training that was put on by the Attorney General's office back in November. One of the things, if you recall, the sign-in sheet, which everybody signed who was a part of that training, that was forwarded to the Attorney General's office, and then they wanted additional information on the county purchasing policy as it relates to that recording device that was provided to the Attorney General's office. And I received a reply letter from the Attorney General's office dated December 10th indicating that highly summarized all the actions taken by the county on our end, satisfy the request for remedial action, and appreciate the Commission's prompt compliance with the remedial action request, and trust the Commissioner's clerk and others now understand their obligations under both the Kansas Open Meetings Act and the Kansas Open Records Act. Because the Commission has complied with our request for remedial action, we now consider the matter closed. So I just wanted to give you an update on the response and kind of where, although you never want to, I mean, self-reporting has its own some people don't necessarily like the self-report. I don't see there's an issue with self-reporting, because if there's an issue, it needs to be addressed. And in this case, I think this result demonstrates that it was handled correctly. So I don't know if there's any questions about that aspect of what occurred and how it went down, but that's where we are.
Wade, we appreciate what you've done in that situation. We're all glad it's had a positive report and ready to move ahead, so appreciate everything you've done.
All right, so figured that was a good pause for the cause. Now I'm going to request we go back into another executive session. Same motion. My request is someone make a motion for the board to recess into executive session for consultation with the county counselor to discuss ongoing county litigation for matters deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship, same statute, KSA 75-4319 B2. And this will be litigation, ongoing litigation number 3 is what I'll call it.
For house.
In 15 minutes, I always want to say a shorter time, and then
Also move.
Okay, Bob has moved, entertain a second.
Second.
Tom has second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried 5-0. Got it all recorded, Angie?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We're at 11:29.
11:29, John.
11:29 is 4 in. Now, 11:44. Okay, we're back in.
Get your exercise today.
when I'm not here for a week, this time last week, I was, we almost had a jury.
This is just kind of like a new strong council meeting, though, in and out, in and out, in and out, executive sessions. Mark? Just the last one.
What you got for us this time, Wade?
Alright, so now another executive session. Someone request a motion for board to recess into executive session for consultation with the county counselor to discuss, and in this case, it's not ongoing litigation, it's potential litigation, for matters deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exception, Tacoma, same statute, KSA 75-43-19B2.
I move for 15 minutes, right?
I don't know if it'll take 15 minutes, but every time I say 15 isn't enough.
Second.
You wanna stay with 15 minutes?
I wanna say no, but
Okay. Fred has moved, Tom has second to go in executive session for 15 minutes with the county counselor and the commission and return back to our chambers. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. We'll go in at 11:47, come out at 12:02.
what? Oh, I didn't have the day off. I was in a trial.
Oh, okay.
I was in a 3-day trial.
Yeah.
I would have rather been off.
We're still on this. When we actually come back in, are we not supposed to declare that we're back in regular session? I was in some meetings where they actually did that, and I just wondered if that was part of the procedure, or was it just something they did?
It probably doesn't hurt, but I think it's great.
Part of the motion, it says 15 minutes, and 15 minutes passes, and we're automatic.
I think
To me, we're automatic. Horrible.
Treat like criminals.
Yeah, they treat them too well, I think, sometimes.
Sheriff Williams, when he was the sheriff in Allen County, he had this philosophy that if you fed the inmates well, then you didn't have as many problems. And I think statistically it shows that if you feed them well, then they're a lot happier and they a lot less problems and turnover.
That's one we met in Wichita.
What's that?
That's the gentleman we met in Wichita.
No, that was one of the current commissioners. Tom Williams was the sheriff when I was there. He later became a commissioner, and now he works for Derek Schmidt at the Elder Abuse Unit. He's the supervising agent in charge, or whatever you call it. So,
We've finished our agenda. Wade, what do you have for roundtable?
that is, in the past, I'm trying to do a better job of getting this stuff on the agenda so that, when I know ahead of time, sometimes I don't, but, this time I knew, and I added the technology item to the discussion or the agenda kind of last minute, but I did that so that it would have been a roundtable issue, and if I can get it added in time, I try to, so that, I don't have anything outside of that.
Okay. Angie, what do you have for us today?
Nothing too much, other than I did wanna ask, when you meet Wednesday, are you gonna be recessing? Is there gonna be a meeting, or are you just coming to view?
No meeting, we'll just
We're
be
just here to review, my understanding.
Okay,
Review
so
only.
you'll
And with a
adjourn.
right to ask a question if something comes up.
Okay, I just wanted to.
We're not gonna make any decision.
Okay,
or take
so you'll adjourn today and
Yes.
then till next week, okay.
That's the way I understand, unless Wade directs is different.
And then we'll do, check signing on the 30th, I think is what we have, and year-end transfers also that day, so it'll be a busy,
We're gonna do year-end transfers on the 30th?
or, I'm sorry, no, the 31st, year-end transfers.
What time do we need to be here on the 31st?
I would say about 11:30,
11:30 or so?
yeah. I may not quite be ready by then, but
Close.
there might be some other business you might wanna discuss or something, and,
Courthouse is closed that day.
right,
Correct,
we leave,
No, it's
the
not.
offices are closed at noon.
Yeah.
The building's still open as long as you're in meeting.
Good. Anything else, Angie? Fred, do you have anything to bring for the commission?
Just for information, at the fiber board meeting, last week, it was brought up that, we ran the fiber to the fire stations in Leroy and Gridley. And, just kind of by accident, there were people along the way of where that fiber was being run that subscribed. And, so they picked up at Gridley, I think they picked up 3 or 4, private homes plus a business. And at, Leroy, they picked up a few homes. And, according to the information I received, the co-op now has fiber, and, they're able to do a lot of things that they haven't been able to do in the past. So I think it's good for the communities as well as the fire stations.
That turned out to be a plus all the way around.
So are they willing to give us a little reimbursement since we have footed the bill to send it to the fire stations and now these other people are picking it up?
I doubt that, but I think it's a great thing that we did.
Tom, what do you have for us? Do you have anything else, Ruth?
No, that's all.
Tom, do you have anything?
Yeah, Bob, last week you handed us this Lynn County, and you said, Lynn County didn't have an economic development program.
Well, they do, a lot of that right there.
Well, they have an economic development director as well.
The director?
Yes, part-time, her name is Jessica Hightower.
Okay. Okay.
She works like 28 hours a week.
Well, information I received, but that's okay.
Yeah, I sat across the street, or across the table from her at the Southeast Kansas Planning Board there, first of the month, so.
So they got an employee on staff as well as their
Anderson
funding
County,
part of it.
yeah, Anderson County used to share with Lynn, but that went away, and then Anderson County hired their own as well as Lynn. But she does work part-time, I mean, it's a 28-hour-a-week thing, which, that might be a consideration in our search too, or maybe might be the only thing we can come up with too, who knows, so.
I should have looked at that after Bob passed that. I got it laying on the desk and I haven't reviewed it yet. I will this week, so.
in light of all these executive sessions, potential litigations, ongoing litigations, and all these things transpired or occurred prior to my arrival. There's been a few things brought to my attention, or one thing brought to my attention that could be possible potential litigation, and not quite sure how to approach it, but maybe Wade could direct me. I don't know. Maybe I should have asked Wade prior. Certain comments made, sexist comments made by an individual, that's been brought to our attention once, brought to my attention down in EOC, a comment that was made. I see an avenue for another potential litigation if we aren't careful. So I would encourage anyone, to help curb this. I don't know how else to describe it, because I myself, like I said, the things you guys are dealing with happened before I got here. I don't wish anything to happen on my watch, so.
It seems like the atmosphere in these days, we gotta be very, very careful.
Yes, sir.
About what is said, where it's said, and who the comments made about, or either one individual or a group of individuals.
Yeah.
The atmosphere really changed from what it was just 2-3 years ago, and gotta be very careful.
That's what I got.
Okay, Bob, do you have anything to come forward?
Yeah, I do. I had just barely mentioned before about another camera. I really think that we need a camera right up here, faces out that way, and one of the reasons for it, we proved it a couple of times today, is Wade was sitting over here and he was talking about people in the audience. I think they ought to be able to see who those people are. Another one we just talked about was the clock we use for going in and out of executive sessions with a camera up here, goes that way. Where I think the camera should be out here, because we have the camera on us, and go that way, and that can be done on split screen, and everybody can see who is here and what's going on, and then kind of relates to what Tom says, everybody sees exactly what goes on in this commission. So, I don't know what you do, if that needs to be a motion, I'd be happy to make a motion to do it.
Do we need to visit with Brad?
I would say we can have Brad.
Brad
Just
come
have
to us
Brad
next.
do it.
Put it together and see what it's gonna cost, and then we have to make a motion.
We could ask Brad to present, another camera to bring it to us to our next meeting on Monday.
I would be fine with
Cause it won't
that.
take him long to put it together.
I would be fine with that. I think we should do that.
I gotta back up and apologize, because every time I talk, I'm gonna turn my back to Fred.
That's okay. That's all right.
I don't mean to do that.
Not a problem.
That's all I have.
Cody, you have anything?
Nothing new.
I don't have anything else either. Donna, what do you have for us?
Wednesday, Fred, you have planning board at 7. And then you've got your jail study interviews, 9, 1, and 2. And then, you'll have meeting on Monday, and then we'll be off Tuesday and Wednesday, then come back on Thursday. Just a reminder.
That
Like I say, I'm
company's coming in at 9 o'clock, I wonder if that could be done at 11, that way we wouldn't have a gap of 3 hours there. I meant to say something to Mike before he left. They've already got it set up
That
at 9.
does look like it's
Yeah.
spread out, doesn't it?
If that would
Yeah,
work
it
for
would
that
be
company to
fine.
come in at 11, would that be better, or we ought to just go for 9, 1, and 2? I can make anything work, so.
I think they've kind of set the time up.
Okay, we'll just stay at 9, 1, and 2. Okay. Anything else come before the commission? Wade, yet? Anybody else come up? If not, we'll adjourn at 12:12. Donna, do you wanna touch base with Brad or Angie, you want your, one of you just need to touch?
Yeah, I can say something to him.
Brad should, I bet he put that together with about a 5-minute phone call.
Yeah, probably. We mentioned to him getting a screen, he found one for $50.
Didn't take long to get that screen up, did it?
So,
The deal there with the camera isn't so much just putting the camera up, it's, then we're gonna have to look into combining the video. There may be a software purchase.
Oh, yeah,
We'll go from there.
to get a split screen or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
Just real quick.
Yeah.
difficult.
I may or may not be here Wednesday. We're supposed to go to Branson tomorrow.
I gotta skip out at about 2:40 Wednesday, so. I've got an appointment I've had for 4 months, and I'm not gonna change it. It's at 2:45. We'll see you all Wednesday.
Yeah.
Cody, that, you're still on over there. Sorry.
No, you didn't.